Good morning. Good morning, Internet land. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of DIY Wellness. We're just going to give it a moment for Instagram to catch up with us like we normally do. And once it gets here, we're going to dive into an episode about making progress instead of striving for perfection. Because done is better than perfect, which is the topic for today. Just one more moment. Okay, Instagram has caught up to us. So there we go. All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of DIY Wellness. I'm your host, Brian Hogan, life coach, filmmaker, clinical therapist, and founder of the S.H.I.F.T model. S.H.I.F.T stands for Somatic, Holistic, Internal Family Transcendence, and it's a way of meeting our parts while regulating our nervous system so that we can make real progress. And so what I want to talk to you guys today about is done is better than perfect. Why that's true? Because perfect is an illusion. That's the first thing to understand. Done is better than perfect because done means it's out in the world. Done means it's doing something for you or for the people you created the thing for or whatever, or you even ourselves. Like we're putting ourselves out there in a way that, okay, I'm done with this and I'm going to go put myself out there now, is much more impactful than waiting and isolating until things are perfect, because they won't ever be perfect. The main thing to hear here is that there's no such thing as perfect. There's no such thing. Perfection is an illusion. And because it's an illusion, it's actually the lowest possible standard we could strive for. And so, but it's not, there's no shame in having perfectionist tendencies. I have them. Most people that I know have them. We just don't want to let them drive the bus, because when they do, they exhaust us, they make us anxious, and it starts to feel like we have to do everything right all of the time, which again is an illusion. So I want to start by sharing a little bit about how we came to have this cultural belief that perfection is somehow a good idea, and then how we can let it go. And then after I talk about that for a few minutes, we're going to spend about 10 minutes doing a S.H.I.F.T model practice to meet the parts of us that do strive for perfection, and also to meet the parts of us that would love to make a mess and love for it not to have to be perfect, because both of those parts deserve self-acceptance and both of those parts deserve your inner friendship. So the thing is, we are taught to perform from a very young age. We're taught to attain, to achieve, and this creates a situation where learning becomes intimidating because getting it wrong becomes intimidating. Like in grade school, for example, we're taught to raise our hand when we have the right answer, and that there's one right answer, and we should raise our hand only when we're sure that we have that right answer. And if we're wrong, then it's humiliating. Other people in the class might laugh at us. The teacher's going to tell us the answer was wrong. And so we're taught to look for the perfect one correct answer, find the singular answer that some other human is looking for, and then parrot it to them. And we call that teaching and learning and education. And what happens in a situation like that is that we end up feeling afraid to learn. And researchers have codified the learning process into stages. And the first stage of the learning process is called incompetence. Like, I think it's unknown incompetence or something like that. And it's just to remind us that learning starts with not being good at a thing. It starts with being shitty, with being crappy, with being really terrible at the thing. And so one of the things that we need to do is to embrace making a mess, embrace doing things imperfectly if we're going to make progress. Progress and innovation come online when we drop perfection. When we drop perfection, we can enter into progress and innovation. But when we're beholden to perfection, we can't make progress and we can't innovate, because perfection's a fantasy and it's an illusion. And when we're striving for a fantasy, it's not real and there's nothing to innovate. So, I forget who this was, but there was some kind of a professor who asked his class, what's half of 13? I use this game now all the time with my students in my screenwriting class and in my filmmaking camps, because I love this. It helps people understand that there's more than one correct answer to a problem, and that innovation is actually the way forward. So he would ask his students, what's half of 13? And somebody would raise their hand and go, 6.5. And you go, correct. What else is half of 13? And they'd all, what? Okay. Was someone bravely 6.5? Correct. What else is half of 13? And he goes on like this until everyone in the class has given at least 2 correct answers to what is half of 13. And slowly you get people going, well, they put the 1 and the 3 on the board and they erase the top half. And he's like, correct. And then someone erases the bottom half, correct. So then someone erases just the 1, then just the 3. Then they go into letters and they go thir, and then teen, and then every other letter is half, and then every other letter is half, and infinite ways to get half of 13, to get the answer. And so what it's showing us is that there is more than one correct answer. Even in the world of numbers and the world of math, there's more than one correct answer to many, 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 many questions. And when we're striving for the single one correct answer, to get it right, to get it perfect, we're actually limiting the bandwidth of our perception and our scope from being able to see all of the innovative possibilities out there. And so what we want to try to do is let go of the need for things to be perfect and instead just embrace that things can get done. Me and some colleagues were creating a web series and a youth education program to go along with it called Story Labs. And as we do this, I'm always saying in our meetings, done is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. Let's get the sales page out the door. Let's get the email out the door. Let's get the workshop out the door. Because even if it's not totally perfect, and it never can be, spoiler alert, by being done and out there, the workshop is making an impact in people's lives. And then we will learn from the feedback of those people how to do the workshop differently. And we'll learn from the feedback of our own system as we teach the workshop, and we feel what feels right and what doesn't feel right and what taxed us too much and formats that might be better. And so you learn by doing the thing for real. You don't learn just by practice in some artificial, isolated environment. Practice happens in the real world, and that's why done is better than perfect. So you get the thing done, you throw it out there in the real world, and then you see what happens. You see how it's received. You see how you feel about it being out there. And from there, you tweak and you tweak and you tweak. I would say you perfect, but you're never going to make it perfect. So you don't really need to perfect, but you can just continue to refine and you can continue to innovate. And that is how we can release ourselves from the tyranny of perfection and instead embrace the liberation of enoughness, of being done, of completeness. Something can be complete, it can be finished, and that doesn't mean that it has to be perfect, and yet it still means that you can put it out there in the world. And the same thing that I'm talking about here when it comes to goals or stuff or products or things, it's also true of us as humans. We can put ourselves out there before we feel perfect, before we feel ready, before we feel like it's the right time. We can just decide, I'm going to go try this. It's done. I'm done. I'm going to go put myself out there and see how the world responds. And I can keep refining myself over time, but I'm not going to isolate in before I put myself out there. I'm just going to say, I'm done. I'm done trying to improve. I'm done trying to become better. I'm done trying to become something I'm not. I'm done pursuing perfection. And instead, I'm just going to put myself out there as the being that I am now. And in that putting out, we make progress, we innovate, we end up improving, we become more, we gain skills, we learn new things. But that's because we're not doing it to pursue perfection. We're doing it because it's the day-to-day, thing that we're doing in our lives. And hopefully it becomes more enjoyable when the tyranny of perfection isn't there trying to be the end goal. So instead, what is the end goal? Present moment joy, moment to moment satisfaction. And you can still pursue end goals, but those end goals can be messy now, and they don't need to end up being perfect in order for you to get joy out of them. That's the difference here. So it's just about noticing that perfection is a total illusion. It's a total fantasy, and it's not attainable. And so knock it off, right? We just stop trying to attain that altogether, completely reject perfection culture, and instead embrace innovation culture, progress culture, done culture, even play, fun, relaxation culture. Not everything in life is about making some kind of productive progress even. Sometimes it's okay just to let something be done and just to allow yourself to exist in it. So that's the main message I wanted to share with you all today, is that done is better than perfect. If it comes to a project you're working on or an aspect of your own life, just remember that you don't need to pursue perfection anymore. You can just pursue completion. Get it done, put it out there, see what happens, and move on and learn from that. Embrace your unknown incompetence as the first stage of learning, and then go from there. So what I'd like to do now is just move into a short shift model practice where we're going to meet the parts of us that really do think perfection is super important and maybe even feel a little threatened by this conversation. And then we're also going to meet the parts of us that enjoy making a mess and would like to have the freedom to make a mess more. And we're going to allow both of them in. We're going to lavish on both of them self-acceptance, inner friendship, and unconditional kindness, because both parts have been trying in their own way to protect us, to help us to thrive. So you can join me tapping on the side of your hand, and just remember that the shift practices here are eyes open and repeat after me practices. So you don't need to know the tapping points we're about to do. You can just watch, and you don't need to worry about or figure out what to say. You can just repeat after me. That said, if something I say doesn't ring the chime of truth for you fully, then don't repeat it, and instead say in real time words that make more sense to you and that ring true for you. Because the life flourishing formula and the trauma healing formula is truth plus safety plus a compassionate witness. And the truth is the words that you say out loud here in this moment. The safety is the container that we're creating through tapping and the shift model. And the compassionate witness is us, me here, this community together, holding space for each other. So even though I have a part that strives for perfection, I accept that part right here and right now fully. Even though this part worries about making mistakes and getting things wrong, I accept those feelings. Even though this part gets nervous and doesn't like hearing that we're not going to strive for perfection, I understand the complexity of these feelings and I accept them. This part really wants me to be perfect. Top of the head. Strives for perfection. Eyebrow. Gets nervous about mistakes. Side of the eye. Feels afraid of failure and rejection. Under the eye. Believes perfection is protection. Under the nose. If I don't make mistakes, I can't be judged. Chin. Striving for perfection keeps me safe. Collarbone. But I'm starting to realize perfection really is a fantasy. Not only do I not need to achieve it, it's also not achievable by anyone, ever. Under the arm. And so I'm allowed to let my parts stop trying. And I'm allowed to love the parts that have difficulty stopping. Okay, stop tapping right there. Place your hands over your heart if that feels aligned, and take a nice, slow, deep breath in through the nose and a longer, slower exhale through pursed lips like this. And just allow this part to be here in your presence, in the presence of your acceptance, perhaps for the first time in a while. Just accept this part for all its trying, all its striving, all its worrying, all its anxiety, all its type A, neurotic, whatever it is that this part holds. Just notice it, see it for what it is, for the nature of it trying to protect you, for its fear of reprisal, for its desire to keep you safe. And just take a moment and send it this energy of understanding, letting it know that you really understand what it goes through. And just see how it responds to you accepting it for what it is in this moment and not needing it to change. And just be with that feeling for a moment. And now when you're ready, join me on the side of your hand. We're going to allow this part, these parts that struggle with perfectionism, to be here right now with us. Totally unjudged, totally safe. And we're also going to connect with the parts that like making a mess, that like it to be sloppy, that don't want to have to be perfect. And you might be a neat freak and you don't necessarily think you have parts in there that would rather not have to strive for perfection. Maybe they don't want to mess, but they're anti-perfection. So just tune into that. Tune into those parts that would rather be more carefree, more sloppy. Even though there is a part of me that resists my pursuit of perfection, that gets exhausted by it. I welcome that part here now too. Even though there are parts of me that would rather be less serious, more carefree, more playful and unconcerned about other people's opinions, that doesn't always feel safe. And I accept the complexity of those feelings. Even though these parts sometimes feel constrained by productivity and perfection and the need to achieve and impress. I accept them here and now and welcome them in, and all the feelings they bring. Top of the head. Oh, these parts that are tired of perfection. Eyebrow. They make sense too. They just want to play side of the eye. They want to have fun. They want to relax under the eye. And they get exhausted by the pursuit under the nose. I can see their fatigue under the chin. And it makes total sense to me. Collarbone. These parts are also doing their best. They're doing their best to find a way to be carefree, even while perfectionism reigns. Under the arm. And I accept all of my parts striving for perfection, and these parts that would rather not, that would rather be free. I accept you all right here and right now. And I'm with you. Okay, stop tapping there. Put your hands over your heart again if that feels aligned, and take a nice slow deep breath in through your nose, and that same longer, slower exhale through pursed lips. And just notice what comes up for you. As you welcome the parts that long for care freedom, and you welcome the parts that try to keep you safe through perfection, just notice that both parts can coexist now. Even if it's not totally comfortable, they can exist together in your presence. That with you, with your inner wizard, with you here, connecting with them, that they can be okay. And just tune into them, letting them know that you really are aware of them now, and that you appreciate what they try to do for you. And if it feels genuine, let them know you'll continue checking in with them as they make themselves more known, and see how they respond. Yeah. Just take a moment now to send some gratitude to your parts that showed up here, however they showed up, whether they were willing, skeptical, happy, angry. It's okay. They can't get it wrong. Just send them a little bit of gratitude for being willing to be here and share with you. And if what you heard here resonates, then you can share this video with someone you know who might appreciate the message. If you have questions about these topics or comments as you try them out, put them in the chat and I will respond and help you celebrate your wins and get unstuck. Because remember, DIY wellness means do it yourself, but that does not mean that you have to do it all by yourself. I will be back again next week at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday morning. Until then, keep taking personal growth into your own hands. I trust you, humanity. Bye.